The Ride of a Lifetime by Robert Iger. Key insights. Everyone has heard of the Disney Company. It's been with us for years and holds a special place in many hearts. Disney owns movies, theme parks, and, of course, merchandise. It is one of the most dynamic media operations around. It may seem as if Disney had easy success because of its history. But when Robert Iger took over as CEO of Disney in 2005, the company was in trouble. The 90s brought a plethora of successful Disney movies, but soon after, a bunch of expensive animation failures followed. The cause? A drawn-out shareholder that had chipped away at the morale of employees. And also, as a result, the relationship between Disney and Pixar was bruised. Iger knew he needed to make a drastic change. Don't be in the business of playing it safe. Be in the business of creating possibilities for greatness. Robert Iger. In his book, The Ride of a Lifetime, you'll get the inside scoop of how Iger took the Disney name, refreshed it, and regained its success. Key points. Working under his father's influence. Nature and nurture are two strong factors in how we act as a person. Nature is how we were designed, while nurture is how we were raised and in what context. Iger grew up on Long Island and was the oldest of two children. His mother was kind and worked at home, while his father was an ad man. He had served in the Navy during World War II and was a little rough and tough on the outside. Iger's father graduated from Wharton, a business school in Pennsylvania. He suffered from manic depression and was oftentimes full of self-doubt. Iger's father encouraged the reading of American classics and tried to nurture his son's learning. He wanted him to always be productive and work on being the best person he could be. Iger and his father also enjoyed political debates, as his father was a very vocal liberal. Iger took notes from his father and worked to better himself. He delivered papers for extra money, fixed appliances, and learned new skills. Iger didn't want to feel like a failure, which is something he knew his father thought of himself. Iger believes he owes everything he has succeeded to his upbringing. From his father, he learned how to be dedicated to something and make it better. A lucky break. Iger's career was not entirely planned. He actually had a stroke of luck when his Uncle Bob was in a New York City hospital, sharing a room with a low-level executive from ABC. The ABC executive decided to share his card with Iger's Uncle Bob after he mentioned Iger was in the market for a job. Iger ended up getting a job at ABC's production services department. The position only paid $150 a week, and there were no real duties associated with the job. He was simply hired to be where they needed him. He was a grunt. In 1978, he was hired to work on the main event, which was a televised Frank Sinatra concert. One of Iger's tasks was to run to the store and buy some mouthwash for the singer. He got to deliver it to him personally and walked away with a $100 bill and a gold lighter. Iger did his fair share of moving up the ladder. At ABC Sports, the supervisor was impressed with his motivation and hired him for the most profitable division of the network. With this new opportunity, Iger got to see the rich and glitzy lives of celebrities and athletes. He got to drive fancy cars and travel around the world. This is around the time Iger learned to always stay ahead of the curve when it comes to business. His decision to stay. In 1985, Iger, at 34, was made the VP of ABC Sports. While he was being appointed, the company was being rebooted as Cap Cities bought the network for $3.5 billion. The new owners took away everything that ABC Sports once gave their employees. All the frills and fancy cars and outings were gone. Iger didn't mind, though. What he did mind was that the new owners hired a complete outsider as the head of his department. His name was Dennis Swanson. Iger wanted to quit, but he was told if he stayed, he would be made Senior VP of Programming. Iger decided to stay, and it was the best decision he ever made in his career. Swanson ended up being a great guy. He was friendly and energetic and very encouraging. He trusted his workers and gave them creative freedom with projects. In 1988, Iger was heading the Calgary Winter Olympics in Canada. It started out fine, but then disaster hit as warm weather hit and the snow and ice started melting on the courses. So, how did Iger solve this catastrophe? He looked for human interest stories in Calgary to take up the screen time for the canceled Olympic events. The ratings for this were historically high, and as a result, Iger became the president of ABC's entertainment division. Taking a chance. When Iger first took over as president, he needed a hit show in order to compete with NBC, which was gaining success. Iger wasn't really sure how things were done in Hollywood, and the creatives who worked underneath him didn't give him much respect, as he didn't know the LA industry. Iger didn't try to fake his knowledge to them. He knew that wouldn't gain him respect. So what he did was ask questions to better understand everything that was going on around him. That made it easier to have the courage to make tough decisions and lead. Iger's first big decision was to give the green light to Twin Peaks, a show created by David Lynch. Other people did not see it doing well on primetime TV, but Iger saw something great in the concept. And he knew that it was important to shake things up to gain attention. The show started out with a bang, with 35 million viewers during the first episode. But then the views started to lose steam. But in the grand scheme of things, the loss didn't really matter. Iger's bold decision to run this show caught the attention of the media. His phone rang off the hook with calls from big directors wanting to discuss future projects. The first years with Disney. Because of Iger's bold decision, he was hired as ABC's chief operating officer. But only 6 months after he was promoted, Disney started asking if ABC was for sale. In 1996, in a $19.5 billion deal, the two companies were merged together. But at this time, the Disney entertainment sector was in trouble. There were a lot of recent flops, and their division was in trouble. When Iger started his 5-year contract with Disney, he suffered because of its corporate environment. He was used to working in a more comfortable, less uptight environment at ABC. At Disney, there were so many rules, guidelines, and a whole lot of structure. There were a lot of personal issues as well that Iger faced. There were people in positions that shouldn't have been in. Managers who didn't know how to manage. The rift with Pixar. In 1999, Eisner asked Iger for a meeting because Iger was considering quitting his position. He was done with the rigid system of Disney. Iger thought the meeting was to fire him, as Eisner had told Tom Murphy he would never have Iger above him. But to his shock, Iger was offered a promotion as COO of Disney and asked to take a seat on the board. He was now in line to take over Disney when Eisner retired. Disney was feeling the pressure of keeping up with the constantly changing media. But they had one person they could rely on, Steve Jobs of Apple. Jobs also held the title of CEO of Pixar Animation Studio. Disney and Pixar had sealed a deal to produce and distribute 5 films together during the 90s. The issues started during the creation of Toy Story 2. Eisner believed it shouldn't count as one of the 5 because it was a sequel, and Jobs thought it should. Then, another issue arose when, as a result of 9/11, one of the largest Disney shareholders dumped $2 billion worth of shares. And because of fear of travel, the theme parks took a revenue hit as well. Eisner was stressed and looking for a way to save Disney. However, he refused to compromise with Jobs, which caused Jobs to publicly state that he would never work with Disney again. Because of this statement, the Disney shareholders were up in arms. Only 43% stood behind Eisner. It was evident that his rule was over. Iger convinced Disney. When companies fail, oftentimes the shareholders want to appoint an outsider to take over and make things right. But Iger had another idea. He convinced them to promote him to CEO and fix all the wrongs. Iger talked to Scott Miller, a political consultant, to help him win the soul of the brand back and ensure a spot as CEO. Miller instructed Iger to sell the roadmap to success. He encouraged showing the people where they are, where they want to be, and how they were going to get there. This is what Iger came up with. Number 1, Disney had to create more memorable characters. Number 2, Disney had to embrace new technology and keep up with the times. Number 3, Disney had to become global and tap into international markets. This convinced everyone, and the new CEO was Robert Iger. Buying out Pixar. Iger's first task when he was appointed CEO was to fix the relationship with Pixar and Steve Jobs. Jobs offered Iger a one-sided deal, which resulted in Iger's idea of buying out Pixar instead. But no one was convinced that Jobs would even sell because of the poor relationship he had with Eisner. It was apparent that the Disney Animation Studio was performing much lower than Pixar's, who had John Lasseter and Ed Catmull working at technological and creative heads. Iger knew he needed their help. In 2005, Iger called Jobs and proposed a crazy idea to buy Pixar for $6.4 billion, with the stipulation that Lasseter and Catmull got full creative freedom. Disney gained Pixar's output, technology, and knowledge as they were trying to reinvent themselves and get back to where they were. The result was a success: Disney's acquisition of Marvel. Now that Disney had the knowledge and resources to make top-quality films, their next step was deciding what to make. Marvel had been suffering financially for years, but it held the rights to so many great characters. But convincing Marvel to sell would be a hard task. Iger enlisted Jobs to help him secure the rights, as Jobs was a huge comic book fanatic. In 2009, Disney bought Marvel for $4 billion. But people were confused. The deal didn't make any sense to them, as other big companies already had the rights to the Hulk, Spider-Man, and all the big-name characters. However, Iger knew that there were enough stories there that they could use that would be excellent for the Disney name. Disney even pushed the envelope with Black Panther becoming a voice in social issues. Disney streaming service. Iger knows that if you don't keep up with technology, your company will soon die. So, when streaming platforms became all the rage, Iger knew they had to get in on it too. They either had to buy a platform or make a platform. In 2018, Disney used BAMTech to launch a global sports streaming service called ESPN+. And soon to follow, at the end of 2019, was Disney+. Disney made the bold decision to pull its movies from streaming platforms such as Netflix, which costs them billions in annual licensing fees. But thinking long-term, it is a reinvention of Disney. The main takeaway: Iger made a name for himself in the entertainment industry by working his way up in ABC. He later was hired by Disney, where he worked his way up to CEO, and further developed the innovative, successful company that it is today.
Hi, I'm Rhonda, and this is an exclusive audiobook video recorded for the Audiobook Master Channel. Enjoy your audiobook and have fun learning. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so you'll get updated on our next upload. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up and say your thoughts about the book we just covered. Do you want to listen to a summary or review of a book that we haven't covered in the past? Say it in the comments below or send us a message. Don't forget to check our other uploads. Enjoy listening!